The Xanthari Dominion had not risen to power through diplomacy or mutual cooperation. It had conquered, subjugated, and assimilated for over 2,000 galactic cycles. At its head stood Emperor Varnoth the Eternal, a being so ancient that his original organic body had long since been replaced by a towering chassis of black metal and pulsating energy cores. His voice, a synthesized rumble that could shake the walls of his throne room, was law for over 1 trillion souls. For centuries, his advance had been unstoppable. Race after race had been given a simple choice: kneel or be erased. Most knelt. The few that didn't were now nothing more than historical footnotes, their worlds turned into mineral-rich quarries. Today, his war council was abuzz with a new discovery. A holographic star map dominated the center of the chamber, a single yellow star blinking on its furthest edge. Supreme Admiral Xylark, a creature of sinew and chitin, gestured towards the blinking light. "My Emperor, our exploration fleets have mapped a new sector. It is sparsely populated, mostly lifeless rocks and gas giants. However, the third planet of this system shows signs of a spacefaring, though primitive civilization. They call themselves humans, and their world, Earth." Varnoth's optical sensors narrowed, casting a thin red light across the map. Primitive. Do they have a standing fleet, quantum shielding, planetary ion cannons? Xylark shifted uneasily. "No, my Emperor. Their technology is rudimentary. They have a few small research stations on their single moon and a handful of ships that travel between their world and the stations. They have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, and their vessels are fragile. Their military is powerful by their own standards, but would be laughable against a single Dominion frigate." A wave of condescending clicks and hisses rippled through the gathered officers. Another easy conquest, another world to add to the Emperor's crown. But one voice remained silent. General Thrax, a veteran of 100 brutal campaigns, stared at the human homeworld with unblinking compound eyes. He had seen something in the data that the others had missed. "My Emperor," Thrax rumbled, stepping forward. "If I may." Varnoth tilted his massive head. "Speak, General. Your counsel is usually dour, but often correct." Thrax pointed a clawed finger at the data streaming beside the image of Earth. "Look closer at their history, and not their current technology. These humans did not evolve on a temperate, life-giving world. They evolved on a planet they call a death world. The gravity is higher than our standard. The atmospheric pressure is intense. Their world is tectonically active with constant volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. The life there did not coexist, it fought. The very flora and fauna on that planet evolved to kill." He magnified an image showing old human archives of massive, long-extinct creatures with teeth and claws. They rose to the top of this food chain, not because they were the biggest or the strongest, but because they were the most adaptable and the most persistent. They have a concept in their language called war. It is not a strategic tool for them as it is for us. It is a state of being. They have spent their entire recorded history fighting the environment, fighting each other, fighting the very concept of extinction. They see combat not as a failure of diplomacy, but as the ultimate problem-solving mechanism. Xylark scoffed, his chitinous plates rattling. "Ancient history, General. They are soft now. They have cities of glass and steel. They have forgotten how to fight." Thrax turned to face the Admiral. "Have they? Look at the last great conflict on their planet. A war that spanned their entire globe, involving over 100 nations. They developed weapons that could split the atom, weapons that could have scoured their own planet clean. And when faced with an enemy, they did not surrender. They did not negotiate. They built 2 of these weapons and used them. And they ended the war not by defeating the enemy army, but by erasing entire cities. They call this the end game, For them, if the prize is worth fighting for, the cost is irrelevant. The chamber grew silent. Varnoth's energy cores hummed thoughtfully. You speak of them with respect, General. I speak of them with caution, my Emperor, Thrax corrected. A cornered rat will fight a cat. A cornered human will burn down the house, the cat and itself to make sure the cat dies. We should proceed carefully. An open conquest would be met with resistance. Xylarch saw an opportunity to undermine his rival. So you suggest we negotiate with these primitives? Send gifts? Ask permission to enter their space? His voice dripped with sarcasm. The mighty General Thrax, and afraid of a species that hasn't left its own star system. Varnoth raised a massive metal hand, silencing them both. He looked at the blue and green marble floating in the hologram. It looked so peaceful, so fragile. Enough, the Emperor decreed. We did not build an empire by negotiating with every mud hut civilization we encountered. Admiral Xylarch, you will assemble a formidable task force. You will proceed to this Sol system. You will broadcast our standard terms of subjugation to their global council. You will give them one of their days to comply. If they refuse, you will demonstrate the power of the Dominion on one of their smaller, unarmed cities. A show of force. If they still refuse, you will begin the systematic dismantling of their military capabilities from orbit. I want this world intact. It looks pleasant. Xylarch bowed deeply, a triumphant glare directed at Thrax. It will be done, my Emperor. The humans will kneel, or they will burn. As the council dispersed, Thrax lingered, staring at the image of Earth. He had a terrible feeling in the pit of his stomach. He knew the difference between a lamb and a wolf. The galaxy saw a lamb. He feared the galaxy was about to learn the difference, too late. The task force that materialized at the edge of the Sol system was a sight to instill terror in any civilized race. 50 capital ships, led by the dreadnought World Ender, accompanied by 100 frigates and support vessels. They hung in the cold void, their hulls bristling with enough firepower to turn a continent to slag. On Earth, the reaction was not uniform terror, but a chaotic mix of fear, awe, and furious activity. The United Nations convened an emergency session. World leaders shouted at each other, their faces pale on massive screens. Military advisors threw up their hands, their most powerful weapons seeming like pea shooters against the alien armada. And then, the message came. It was not broadcast on a specific frequency, but simply appeared on every screen, every device, every communication channel on the planet. The face of Admiral Xylarch filled the view, his chitinous visage and clicking mandibles translated by a cold, emotionless digital voice. People of Earth, you are now a protectorate of the Xanthari Dominion. Your system is within our claimed territory. You have one of your days to agree to unconditional surrender. Your global government will be dissolved and replaced by a Dominion Administrative Council. Your military will be disbanded. Your resources will be taxed for the glory of the Empire. In return, your species will be permitted to exist. Failure to comply will result in the immediate pacification of one of your population centers. Continued resistance will result in extinction. You have 24 of your hours. Acknowledge. The message ended. The world held its breath. In a secure bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, the leaders of the free world were not holding their breath. They were arguing. "We have nothing that can touch those ships," the premier of the Eastern Coalition shouted, slamming a fist on the table. "Our best nuclear warheads would be like firecrackers against their shielding." "So we just surrender?" the Prime Minister of the British Commonwealth shot back. "Hand over our entire species to bugs?" "It's not surrender, it's survival," the Premier insisted. A grizzled general in a uniform covered in medals, General Marcus Stone, stood up. He was old, his face a roadmap of scars and hard decisions. He had fought in every war for the last 40 years. He walked to a terminal and pulled up the schematics of the alien ships, gleaned from the few seconds of sensor data they had managed to capture. "They're big," he said calmly. "They're powerful, and they think we're going to play by their rules." He pointed to a tiny flaw in the alien formation. "Look, they're arrogant. They're sitting right at the edge of our heliosphere in a standard formation. They haven't spread out. They haven't considered that we might not just bend over." "What are you suggesting? A general?" the President of the United States asked, his voice tired. "I'm suggesting we don't play their game, Mr. President. We have 24 hours. The rest of the world is in a panic. They think we have nothing, but we have a lot of things they don't know about. We have ships we've been testing in secret. We have missiles that can achieve higher accelerations than anything they've seen because they underestimated our engine tech. And we have something they will never understand." "And what's that?" the Premier scoffed. General Stone looked him dead in the eye. "We have the ability to look at a 50-ship armada and think, that's a target-rich environment. We aren't going to defend Earth. We're going to attack them. We're going to hit them so hard and so fast that they don't have time to think. And we're going to use every dirty trick we've ever learned. And then we're going to send them a message." The room fell silent. The President leaned forward. "What kind of message, Marcus?" The general allowed himself a grim smile. "The kind they won't need a translator to understand." The human response arrived with 1 hour to spare on the Dominion's ultimatum. It was not an acknowledgement of surrender. It was a tightly focused, high-powered laser burst aimed directly at the World Ender's main communication array. It contained a single video file. On the bridge of his dreadnought, Admiral Zylark played the file with a mixture of amusement and irritation. The screen flickered to life, showing a room full of humans. At the forefront stood General Stone, his scarred face expressionless. "Admiral Zylark, of the Xanthari Dominion," Stone began, his voice calm and level. "We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your offer of subjugation in exchange for continued existence." Zylark clicked with satisfaction. They were going to kneel. "Our decision is final," Stone continued. "We have reviewed your fleet's capabilities. We have analyzed your formation. We have considered the nature of your demand." He paused, his eyes hardening. "We, the people of Earth, have a message for you and for your Emperor. We are not a protectorate. We are not your subjects. We are not prey. This system is ours. This world is ours. You are trespassing. You have threatened our citizens. You have given us an ultimatum. Now, we give you one." Zylark's amusement vanished, replaced by a cold fury. "How dare they?" "You have 1 hour to leave our system," Stone stated flatly. "You will pack up your fleet, you will turn around, and you will go back the way you came. You will tell your Emperor that Sol Space is closed. You will tell him that any further incursions will be considered an act of war. And you will tell him this: we are not like the others you have conquered. We are not afraid to die. But we promise you, we will not die alone. Stay out of our way. Your hour starts now." The video ended. The bridge of the World Ender was utterly silent. The human officers looked at Zylark. Zylark stared at the blank screen. Then a sound erupted from his vocal chamber. It was a horrible, gurgling, clicking sound. It took the bridge crew a moment to realize it was laughter. They threaten us?" Zylark gasped between fits of alien laughter. "Now, these primitives with their single planet threaten the might of the Dominion? This is glorious. They have a sense of humor. I will treasure this recording." He composed himself, his mood turning dark. "Prepare the main cannon. We will honor their request. We will show them what staying out of their way means. Target their largest population center. Fire in 10 minutes. But as the gunnery officers scrambled to obey, a sensor technician let out a shriek. Admiral, multiple contacts. They're everywhere. On the tactical display, the void around the Dominion fleet suddenly bloomed with hundreds of tiny signatures. They weren't powerful. They were small, fast, and numerous. They had been hiding behind asteroids, using the planet's magnetic field for cover, lurking in the shadows of gas giants. They were not warships, not in the Dominion sense. They were a swarm of angry bees. The human counterattack had begun not with an hour to spare, but with 30 seconds left on the ultimatum. They had attacked first. Missiles, thousands of them, launched from hidden platforms on Earth's moon, from disguised cargo ships, from the surface of the planet itself. They were not sleek, elegant weapons. They were brute force, massive nuclear payloads crammed into crude, fast-moving delivery systems. They didn't have the finesse to penetrate advanced shields, but they didn't need to. They just needed to get close. The first wave hit the Dominion frigates. The void lit up with miniature suns. Shields flared and died under the sheer volume of fire. Ships that had never been tested by a nuclear detonation found their systems failing, their hulls cracking. It was not a surgical strike. It was a brawl. Zylark roared orders. Dantata ship rocked as a missile slipped through a momentary gap in the point defense grid and detonated against the hull. Alarms screamed. "They're insane!" a tactical officer cried. "They're firing from their own planet. They're going to irradiate themselves." "They don't care," Zylark realized, Thrax's warning echoing in his memory. "They don't care about the cost." As the Dominion fleet reeled, trying to coordinate a defense against a foe that seemed to be coming from everywhere at once, a new signal was detected. It was a small, stealthy ship, accelerating hard towards the world ender. It was packed with the most advanced fusion warhead humanity had ever built. It had no pilot. It was a guided missile the size of a city bus. The world ender's point defense systems, designed to swat down enemy fighters and torpedoes, were overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of the initial attack. The kamikaze ship slipped through. It struck the dreadnought amidships, right where the main reactor was housed. The explosion was not nuclear. It was a containment breach. The resulting detonation tore the world ender in half. In the bunker on Earth, General Stone watched the flagship of the enemy fleet become a rapidly expanding ball of plasma. He didn't smile. He just nodded. "Send the message," he ordered. The message was simple. It was broadcast on all frequencies. A single line of text in the Dominion's own language, translated by the captured data from their initial ultimatum. "Leave or do not return." The remaining Dominion ships, leaderless and in chaos, did not hesitate. And they had come to conquer a primitive world. They had found a nest of hornets. Their admiral was dead, their flagship was vapor, and a third of their fleet was gone or crippled. The survivors activated their jump drives and fled. The battle for Sol was over. It had lasted less than 20 minutes. The remnants of Zylark's once proud task force limped back to the Dominion capital world. The news of their catastrophic defeat spread through the Empire like a plague. In the throne room, Emperor Varnoth the Eternal listened to the report in stony silence. The surviving captains spoke of the human attack, of their disregard for their own safety, of their sheer, overwhelming ferocity. They played the recording of General Stone's warning. They showed the footage of the world ender's destruction. When they finished, a profound silence filled the chamber. The War Council was afraid to speak. Admiral Zylark, the architect of this disaster, was dead. All eyes slowly turned to General Thrax. Thrax stepped forward, his compound eyes unreadable. "My Emperor, the humans have made their position clear. They are not a race that can be conquered in a single swift campaign. They are a race that, when threatened, turns its entire world into a weapon. They have demonstrated a capacity for violence and a tolerance for loss that is unprecedented. Are you suggesting we simply accept this humiliation?" Varnoth's voice was a low, dangerous rumble. "An entire task force? destroyed by a pre-spaceflight civilization? The other races will hear of this. They will laugh. They will see it as a sign of weakness. No, my Emperor, Thrax said carefully. They will see it as a sign of what awaits them if they challenge us while we are dealing with a far more dangerous threat. The humans are not a threat to our empire yet. They are a localized danger, a territorial predator. They have drawn a line in the stars and told us to stay out. For now, it is a line we can afford to respect. He brought up a tactical map of the galaxy. Our borders are vast. Our enemies are many. We have a dozen other campaigns that require our attention, races that will actually negotiate, worlds that will surrender without a fight. Committing the full might of the Dominion to crush one stubborn, suicidal species on a single planet would take time, resources, and attention away from our real goals. The humans have shown us they will not be a quick or easy victory. They will be a bloody, costly, and prolonged conflict that could destabilize our entire northern expansion. Varnoth was silent for a long time, staring at the image of the small blue planet. His logic processors warred with his pride. Pride told him to annihilate them, to scour their world clean and salt the ruins. Logic told him Thrax was right. The cost would be immense. And for what? A single world? They gave us an ultimatum, Varnoth finally said, his voice quiet. They told us to stay out of their way. No one speaks to the Dominion that way. And we are heeding their warning, my Emperor, Thrax countered smoothly. For now, we will watch them. We will study them. We will learn their weaknesses. We will let them think they have won. And when the time is right, when we are not distracted by other conquests, we will return. But we will not return to conquer. We will return to erase. The logic was sound. Varnoth's pride settled into a cold, patient hatred. He would wait. The Dominion was eternal. The humans were a flash in the pan. Very well, General, the Emperor decreed. We will mark this system as a hostile zone. We will observe from a distance. We will not engage. But this is not over. The humans have been issued a warning of their own. They have won a battle. They have not won the war. They have our attention now, and that is a far more dangerous thing than a fleet. The council disbanded, relieved to have avoided a potentially disastrous campaign. But as they filed out, Thrax lingered, looking at the frozen image of General Stone. He saw the hardness in the human's eyes. He saw the same look he saw in his own reflective plating. It was the look of a predator who had just marked its territory. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his core, that the Emperor was wrong. The humans weren't just a territorial predator. They were an invasive species, and by giving them time, by leaving them alone to grow and learn and build, the Dominion had just made the biggest mistake in its 2,000-year history. The humans had not just won a battle, they had bought themselves time. And time, for a species that advanced as quickly as they did, was the most dangerous weapon of all. The warning had been delivered, and for now, it had been heeded. But in the silent depths of space, both sides knew the truth. This was not an ending. It was a beginning.